The collision happened in slow motion. Daniel Harper rounded the corner of Cascade Books' fourth-floor hallway at precisely 8:47 a.m., manuscript pages tucked under one arm, his travel mug of coffee, already cold from the morning school drop-off, gripped loosely in his other hand. He was reading an email on his phone, not looking up, not watching where his feet were taking him. Rachel Kim turned the same corner from the opposite direction, heels clicking against polished concrete, her mind already 3 meetings ahead. She wore her signature white pantsuit, the one that cost more than Daniel's monthly grocery budget. Her dark hair fell in a perfect curtain past her shoulders. Their worlds collided at the exact center point. Daniel's mug flew from his hand. Coffee arced through the air in a wide, devastating spray. Time stretched impossibly thin as he watched the dark liquid splash across Rachel's pristine suit jacket, soaking into the expensive fabric, spreading like spilled ink across fresh snow. The manuscript pages scattered. His phone clattered to the floor. Rachel gasped, stepping back, arms held away from her body as coffee dripped down her front. The stain was forming a shape almost like a maple leaf, Daniel noticed with distant horror. "Oh, God." His voice came out strangled. "I am so sorry." Rachel's eyes lifted to meet his, gray-blue, sharp as glass. For one heartbeat, he saw genuine shock there, vulnerability, something almost human beneath the ice. Then it vanished. "Do you ever look where you're going?" Her voice was cold enough to freeze fire. Daniel bent down, scrambling for the pages, his phone, anything to do with his hands. "I can pay for dry cleaning or replacement, whatever you need. I wasn't paying attention. I'm so sorry." "Forget it." She was already stepping around him, movements precise, despite the coffee saturating her clothes. "Just watch yourself next time, Harper." She knew his name. Of course she did. Rachel Kim knew everyone's name. VP of Publishing Operations didn't climb to the top without keeping mental files on every employee. But he'd never heard her say it before. Harper. It sounded different in her voice. Almost intimate despite the ice coating each syllable. "I really am." He tried again. "I said, forget it." She walked away, spine straight, stride unbroken. People in the hallway parted like water around a stone. Only after she turned the corner did Daniel notice the whispers starting, the glances, the barely concealed smiles of co-workers who'd just witnessed the awkward spectacle. His hands shook as he gathered the last of the scattered pages. 10 minutes later, Daniel sat at his desk in the open plan editorial department, staring at his computer screen without seeing it. Around him, the usual morning chaos hummed: phones, ringing keyboards, clicking hushed conversations about weekend plans and manuscript deadlines. He couldn't stop replaying the moment. The shock in her eyes, the curve of her mouth as she'd said his name, the way she'd looked at him, really looked at him for the first time since he'd started at Cascade 3 years ago. Across the building, 4 floors up in her corner office, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Portland's rain-slicked streets, Rachel Kim stood holding her ruined suit jacket. She should throw it away. The stain would never come out completely. She had 6 others just like it. But her fingers traced the coffee mark's edges, that odd maple leaf shape, and something in her chest tightened. Her assistant, Maya, knocked, entering with a replacement blazer from the emergency wardrobe Rachel kept in the office closet. "Are you okay? I heard what happened." "Fine." Rachel dropped the stained jacket into her desk drawer instead of the trash. "It was an accident." "Daniel Harper's a good guy," Maya offered carefully. "Single dad, works really hard." Rachel didn't respond. Didn't mention that she already knew those things, that she'd noticed Daniel Harper before this morning. Noticed his dedication, his talent, the way he always left at 5:30 sharp for school pickup. Noticed things she had no business noticing about a subordinate. The retreat logistics are confirmed. Maya continued consulting her tablet. 2 days at Mount Hood Lodge. Mandatory attendance for all department heads and senior staff. Rachel's jaw tightened when, next Friday. Outside her window, autumn rain began to fall. If you're enjoying this story about unexpected connections and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe for the next part. Drop a comment below, telling us what you think happens next. Will Daniel and Rachel find their way past this awkward beginning? The alarm screamed at 5:45 a.m. Daniel's hand shot out, slapping it silent before the sound could wake Mia. He lay there in the gray pre-dawn light, staring at the ceiling of his small bedroom. Paint peeling in the corner. Water stain from last winter's roof leak still visible despite his attempts to cover it. 3 days since the coffee incident. 3 days of carefully avoiding the 4th floor, taking stairs instead of elevators, eating lunch at his desk instead of the cafeteria where he might run into her. Pathetic. He rolled out of bed, feet finding the cold hardwood floor. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator's metallic tick. 2 bedrooms, barely 900 square feet, but it was theirs, his and Mia's. Rent-controlled walking distance to her school, close enough to the bus line that got him downtown in 20 minutes. The kitchen was exactly as he'd left it the night before. Breakfast dishes in the drying rack. Mia's latest drawing magneted to the fridge, an explosion of color that she'd titled Happy Chaos. His coffee maker, a ancient Mr. Coffee that ground beans loud enough to wake the neighbors, sat waiting on the counter. He pulled his favorite mug from the cabinet. White ceramic with a hairline crack running from rim to base, a souvenir from the marriage that had ended 5 years ago. He should throw it away, get something new, something without history attached. But broken things still worked. Sometimes they worked better. The coffee maker sputtered to life. While it brewed, Daniel opened the fridge. Eggs milk going sour in 2 days, half a rotisserie chicken from Tuesday, string cheese baby carrots, the remains of last night's pasta. He pulled out eggs and bread, scrambled eggs and toast, again. Mia never complained, but he made a mental note to try something different this weekend. "Dad," Mia appeared in the doorway, her dark hair a wild halo around her face. She wore her favorite pajamas, the ones with planets and stars that were getting too small, but she refused to give up. 9 years old going on 30, Rebecca used to say, before Rebecca left. "Morning, Bug. You're up early. I heard the coffee maker." She climbed onto one of the mismatched kitchen chairs, pulling her knees up to her chest. "Can I have the good cereal?" "The good cereal is for weekends." "It's almost Friday. That's basically the weekend." Daniel cracked eggs into a bowl. "Nice try. How about scrambled eggs?" "Again. I'll add cheese this time. Fancy." Mia grinned, pulling her sketchbook from the pile of school supplies scattered across one end of the table. She always drew in the morning, said the light was better before the sun came up all the way. Daniel watched her while the eggs cooked, the way her tongue poked out when she concentrated the casual confidence of her pencil strokes. She was drawing something with lots of fractured lines pieces that didn't quite connect. "What is it?" he asked, sliding eggs onto plates. "Broken crayons." She held it up. The drawing showed scattered crayon pieces, each one shedding a different color. "See how they make better colors when they're broken. The wax mix is different." "That's beautiful, Mia. You always say that." "Because it's always true." She rolled her eyes but smiled, setting the drawing aside to eat. They had breakfast in comfortable silence, the kind that came from years of just the two of them. The apartment filled with morning light, watery and gray, Portland in October. "Don't forget your math homework," Daniel said, clearing plates. "It's in my backpack. And you need your permission slip signed for the museum trip." "Already signed. You did it Tuesday." "Right." He was forgetting things, more than usual. His mind kept drifting to inappropriate places, like the exact shade of gray-blue in Rachel Kim's eyes. The way her voice had sounded, saying his name. He shook his head, focusing on getting Mia ready for school. The walk to Franklin Elementary took 12 minutes. Mia chattered the whole way about her friend Emma's birthday party this weekend, about the science project due next month, about whether she could get a hamster if she promised to take care of it herself. "We'll see," Daniel said, which they both knew meant no. "That's what you said about the skateboard, and I got that. After you saved your allowance for 4 months. So, if I save for a hamster cage." At the school entrance, Mia turned to hug him. She still did that, even though some of her friends had stopped hugging their parents goodbye. Daniel held on maybe a second too long. "Love you, Bug." "Love you too, Dad." She pulled back, studying his face with those two knowing eyes. "You okay?" "Yeah. Why? You seem worried about something." "Just work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about." She nodded, not entirely convinced, and ran off to join the stream of kids heading inside. Daniel watched until she disappeared through the doors. The bus downtown was crowded bodies, pressed together, everyone avoiding eye contact. Daniel stood holding the overhead rail, his messenger bag heavy against his hip. He'd loaded it with 3 manuscripts last night, planning to work through lunch again. His phone buzzed. Email from HR about the Mount Hood retreat. Mandatory attendance. all senior staff and department heads. Leadership building exercises. Strategic planning sessions. 2 days next Friday and Saturday. His stomach dropped. Babysitter. He needed a babysitter. His regular sitter, Mrs. Chen from downstairs, had mentioned visiting her daughter in Seattle that weekend. His backup sitter was in college, probably had midterms. Rebecca's mother lived in Phoenix, and they hadn't spoken in 3 years. He was scrolling through his contacts, mentally running through options, when the bus lurched to a stop and he nearly dropped his phone. Cascade Books occupied floors 3 through 6 of a converted warehouse in the Pearl District. Exposed brick, polished concrete floors, floor-to-ceiling windows. It tried very hard to be hip and creative while still making money, and mostly succeeded. Daniel got off the elevator on 3, heading straight for his desk without looking at anyone. The editorial department was already buzzing. Someone had brought donuts. The smell of coffee and sugar filled the air. Harper, he turned. Garrett Mills, senior editor, 10 years older and perpetually bitter about it, was leaning against a desk with a smirk on his face. Heard you had a run-in with the Ice Queen earlier this week. Daniel's jaw tightened. It was an accident. Sure it was. How's the suit? Total loss. I wouldn't know. Can we not? Touchy. Garrett bit into a donut-powdered sugar, dusting his shirt. Just saying you might want to watch yourself. Kim doesn't forget things like that. Daniel didn't respond, just kept walking to his desk. He dropped his bag, booted up his computer, and tried to focus on the day's tasks. Manuscript review for the historical fiction they were considering. Author call at 10. Editorial meeting at 11. The meeting was in the 3rd floor conference room, a glass box that offered no privacy. 12 people around the table pitching ideas for the spring lineup. Daniel had prepared a proposal for a new literary imprint, something Cascade had never attempted. Serious fiction, the kind that won awards but didn't always sell. Risky, ambitious. He was halfway through his pitch when the door opened. Rachel Kim stepped inside. The room went quiet. She never attended these meetings. This was editorial, not operations. But there she was, wearing a charcoal suit today, her hair pulled back in a low ponytail. "Don't stop on my account," she said, taking an empty chair at the back. "I'm just observing." Daniel's mouth went dry. He lost his train of thought completely, staring at his notes like they were written in a foreign language. Harper, the editorial director, Susan Park, prompted gently. "You were saying about the target demographic." He found his voice, kept going. Somehow got through the rest of the presentation without looking at the back of the room even once. When he finished, there was polite applause, a few questions. Garrett made some dismissive comment about the commercial viability. Susan said she'd take it under consideration. And then Rachel spoke. "I think there's merit here." Everyone turned to look at her. She was studying Daniel with an unreadable expression. "The literary market is underserved," she continued. "And Harper's right that we have the infrastructure to support a curated imprint without significant additional overhead. I'd like to see this developed further." Daniel's heart was hammering so hard he was sure everyone could hear it. The meeting continued. Other pitches, other discussions, but Daniel couldn't focus on any of it. Rachel stayed for another 10 minutes, then left as quietly as she'd arrived. At lunch, Daniel sat at his desk with a protein bar and cold coffee from this morning, reviewing manuscripts. His stomach was too twisted to eat anything substantial anyway. His phone lit up with a text from his colleague Amy. "Lunch in the cafeteria. Come be social for once." He typed back, "Buried in work. Sorry." The truth was he couldn't risk running into Rachel again. Not today. Not when he was still processing the fact that she'd supported his proposal, that she'd called him Harper again in front of everyone, that she was probably just being professional and he was reading way too much into it because he was pathetic and lonely and hadn't been on a date in 18 months. His computer dinged. Email from Amy. "When's the last time you went out, out?" He didn't answer. The afternoon crawled by. Manuscript reviews, email responses, a phone call with an author who wanted to discuss cover concepts for her upcoming release. Through it all, Daniel kept glancing at his phone, checking the babysitter situation. Mrs. Chen confirmed she'd be in Seattle. His backup sitter had midterms. The third person on his list didn't answer. By 5:15, he was out of options and starting to panic. At 5:30 sharp, he packed up and headed for the elevator. Most people were still working, but he had a strict policy. Be there when Mia got home from after-school care. Have dinner together, help with homework. Bedtime by 8:30. The routine kept them both sane. He was almost to the elevator when he saw her. Rachel Kim standing by the fourth-floor window's phone pressed to her ear. She looked tired, more human than he'd ever seen her. She turned, and their eyes met for a brief second before Daniel looked away and jabbed the elevator button. The doors opened. He stepped inside. Hit the button for the ground floor. Just before the doors closed, he heard her voice, distant but clear. "No, Mother, I'm not seeing anyone. Yes, I'm aware I'm almost 40. Can we please not do this again?" The doors shut. The elevator descended. Daniel stood there feeling like he'd accidentally witnessed something private. Something that made Rachel Kim seem less like the Ice Queen everyone called her and more like someone who was just as lonely as he was. That night, after Mia was asleep, Daniel sat on the couch with a glass of wine and his laptop. He pulled up the retreat information again, read through the details, saw the line he'd skimmed past before, family track option available for employees with childcare needs. Nobody used it. It was one of those corporate policy things that existed on paper, but not in practice. But it existed. He sat there for a long time, staring at that sentence, thinking about Mia, thinking about the alternative of leaving her with strangers, thinking about the look on Rachel's face in the conference room when she'd said his proposal had merit. At 11:47 p.m., he closed the laptop without making a decision. Across the city in a penthouse apartment with walls the color of fog, Rachel Kim stood in her kitchen waiting for the espresso machine to finish its precise brewing cycle. The apartment was silent. 32nd floor, soundproofed windows, no neighbors close enough to hear. Just the hum of expensive appliances and the occasional siren from the street far below. She'd stopped at the gym after work, ran 8 miles on the treadmill, every step measured and controlled, showered in the pristine locker room where she'd never had an embarrassing encounter with a coworker. Came home to an empty apartment that cost more per month than some people's yearly salary. The espresso machine beeped. Rachel pulled the cup, added precisely 1 teaspoon of sugar, and carried it to her living room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Portland spread out below her like a circuit board, lights and dark spaces in organized patterns. She could see the river, the bridges, the hills beyond. Beautiful, cold, separate. Her phone sat on the glass coffee table, silent. The call with her mother had ended badly, as they always did. "When are you going to settle down? Don't you want children? You're running out of time, Rachel. Your father and I won't be around forever." Rachel picked up her phone, scrolled through her contacts. Stopped on a name, Dr. Sarah Winters, Oregon Reproductive Medicine. She'd been a patient there 2 years ago. Before the divorce. Before everything fell apart. They'd tried for 18 months before the diagnosis: severe endometriosis, diminished ovarian reserve, chances of natural conception less than 5%. Her ex-husband Michael had said he understood, said they could adopt, explore other options. But his eyes had told a different story. Within 6 months he was gone. Within a year he was remarried to someone younger. Within 18 months Rachel saw the pregnancy announcement on Facebook before she'd been smart enough to block him. She deleted the contact again. She did this once a month, deleted it, then re-added it from the clinic's website the next day. Sitting on her designer couch in her perfect apartment, Rachel allowed herself 60 seconds of grief. She'd learned to time it. Any longer, and it became dangerous. Any longer, and she might actually feel something. When the 60 seconds ended, she stood up, put her cup in the sink, and opened her laptop. Work, always work. Work didn't leave. Work didn't want things she couldn't provide. Work didn't look at her with disappointment. She had 3 acquisitions to review. A budget proposal that needed revisions. Emails from New York about the corporate restructuring. Notes for tomorrow's strategic planning meeting. And there, in her drafts folder, a half-written email to Susan Park about Daniel Harper's literary imprint proposal. Rachel stared at it. She'd opened it 4 times today and not finished it. The proposal was good. Better than good. It showed vision, understanding of the market, careful research. Harper was talented. She'd known that for a while, though she'd never said it out loud. But supporting it meant more meetings with him, more interaction, more chances to make a fool of herself or say his name in that way that felt too familiar, or notice things she shouldn't notice, like the fact that he wore the same cracked coffee mug to every meeting and there was something oddly endearing about it. She closed the laptop. At 6 a.m., Rachel was on her yoga mat moving through sun salutations with mechanical precision. Her apartment filled with gray dawn light. The espresso machine was already warming up, programmed to start at 5:55. She showered, dressed in one of her identical suits, this one navy blue. Applied minimal makeup. Pulled her hair back, put on her grandmother's compass necklace, the only piece of jewelry she wore besides small silver earrings. The necklace had been a gift when Rachel graduated college. Her grandmother had pressed it into her palm and said, "Even when you're lost, you can find north. Remember that." Rachel touched it now, the cool metal against her skin. She wasn't lost. She knew exactly where she was. Successful, respected, alone by choice. She definitely wasn't lost. Her phone rang. The car service 2 minutes away. Rachel grabbed her laptop bag and headed for the elevator, already composing the day's priorities in her head. Budget meeting at 8. Acquisitions call at 9:30. Lunch with a literary agent at noon. The afternoon was full of back-to-back meetings until 6, when she had dinner plans with a college friend who would spend 2 hours talking about her kids, and Rachel would smile and nod and feel the weight of everything she didn't have pressing down on her chest. She could cancel. She usually did. In the car, Rachel opened her email and finally finished the message to Susan. "Let's develop Harper's proposal. Schedule a follow-up meeting to discuss parameters and timeline." She hit send before she could overthink it. The driver pulled up to Cascade Books. Rachel thanked him, stepped out into the cold October morning, and walked through the doors into the building that felt more like home than her apartment ever had. Her office on the 6th floor was her sanctuary. Windows on 2 walls. Minimalist furniture, everything in its place. Awards and framed book covers on one wall, testament to 15 years of climbing. Maya appeared at 8:15 with coffee and the day's schedule. "You have the budget meeting in the 4th floor conference room. Jenkins from Finance is bringing the Q3 reports, and Susan Park wants to talk to you about the Harper proposal." Rachel nodded, not looking up from her computer. "Schedule it for this afternoon. Also, the retreat logistics are finalized. Did you want to review the agenda? Email it to me." Maya hesitated. "There's a note here that someone requested the family track option. First time in 3 years anyone's used it." Rachel's fingers paused on the keyboard. "Who? It doesn't say. HR just flagged it." "Fine. Make sure the lodge has appropriate accommodations." Maya left. Rachel sat very still, staring at her screen without seeing it. The family track option. She'd implemented it 4 years ago after reading about work-life balance initiatives. But nobody used it because nobody wanted to look like they couldn't handle their career and their family separately. Nobody wanted to bring their personal life into the professional sphere. Except someone had. And she had a sinking feeling she knew who. The morning passed in a blur of meetings. numbers and projections and arguments over marketing budgets. Rachel participated with her usual efficiency, making decisions, cutting through nonsense, keeping everything on track. But part of her mind was elsewhere, wondering, calculating. At 11:30, Susan Park knocked on her door. "You wanted to talk about the Harper proposal. Come in." Rachel gestured to the chair across from her desk. "I think we should greenlight it, contingent on a detailed business plan and market analysis." Susan nodded. "He'll be thrilled. Want me to tell him?" "I will, at the retreat. We can discuss it in detail there." About the retreat. Susan looked uncomfortable. Daniel requested the family track. He's bringing his daughter. So it was him. Of course it was. Rachel kept her face carefully neutral. "That's fine. The policy exists for a reason." "I know. I just wanted to make sure you were aware. Some of the staff might talk. Let them talk. Harper's personal situation doesn't affect his work performance. If anything, it demonstrates his ability to manage multiple priorities." Susan looked surprised. "I'll let him know the family track is approved." After she left, Rachel sat at her desk and allowed herself a moment of something she couldn't quite name. Not excitement, not anticipation. Something quieter and more dangerous. She picked up her phone, scrolled to her mother's contact, then put it down again without calling. Thursday afternoon arrived with rain. The kind of steady drizzle that made everything gray and soft and distant. Daniel had spent the last 2 days in a state of low-grade anxiety. His request for the family track had been approved. Mia was thrilled about the adventure. His co-workers had offered knowing smiles and comments about bringing kids to work events. Now he stood outside Rachel's office, having been summoned by an email that said only, "Stop by when you have a moment." He knocked on the glass door. "Come in." She was at her desk, backlit by the window rain streaming down the glass behind her. She looked up, and Daniel felt that same jolt he'd felt the day he'd spilled coffee on her. Recognition, connection, something. "Harper, sit." He sat. "Susan tells me you're bringing your daughter to the retreat." "Yes, I hope that's okay. The family track option is policy. I'm aware." She folded her hands on her desk. "I wanted to make sure you understood the schedule. There will be activities for children, but the morning sessions are mandatory for all staff." "I understand. And I wanted to discuss your literary imprint proposal. I think it has potential." Daniel's heart rate picked up. "Thank you. I've been developing the business plan. We'll go over it at the retreat, in detail. I want to see projections, market analysis, acquisition strategy. If you're serious about this, I need to see the full picture." "I'm serious." Their eyes met, held. Something passed between them that had nothing to do with business plans or literary imprints. "Good." Rachel looked back at her computer. "That's all. See you Friday." He should leave. He was being dismissed, but his mouth opened anyway. "Can I ask you something? She looked up again, cautious. Why are you supporting this my proposal? You've never attended editorial meetings before. For a moment, Rachel's carefully constructed mask slipped. He saw something underneath. Loneliness. Hunger. The same thing he felt every night in his empty apartment after Mia went to sleep. Because it's good work, she said quietly. And good work deserves support. That's all. It wasn't all. They both knew it. But Daniel nodded and stood. Thank you for the opportunity. Don't thank me yet. We'll see if you can actually execute it. He left her office feeling electric, alive, terrified. Friday morning arrived with cold clarity. Daniel loaded his old Subaru with enough supplies for 2 days. Mia's backpack stuffed with books and art supplies. His own bag with clothes and his laptop and 3 manuscripts he probably wouldn't have time to read. The cracked coffee mug because he couldn't function without it. Mia bounced in the passenger seat as they pulled onto the highway, her excitement infectious. Is this going to be fancy? Tommy's dad went on a work retreat to some beach place with hot tubs. It's at a mountain lodge. I don't know about hot tubs. Will Miss Kim be there? Probably. She's in charge. Is she still scary? Daniel thought about Rachel in her office. 2 days ago, the vulnerable look in her eyes before she'd hidden it again. I don't think she's scary, just professional. Tommy's dad says she's an ice queen. Tommy's dad probably got turned down for a raise. Mia giggled. Do you think ice queens can melt? The question caught him off guard. What? In my book about the Snow Queen. She melts at the end because someone shows her real love. Do you think that's true? That cold people just need the right person? Daniel kept his eyes on the road, watching the city give way to forest. I think everyone's different. Some people build walls to protect themselves. That doesn't make them cold, just careful. But can the walls come down? Maybe, if they feel safe enough. Mia was quiet for a moment, drawing in her sketchbook. Then, I think Miss Kim needs friends. What makes you say that? I saw her once when I was at your work, in her office. She was looking out the window, and she looked so sad, like she was all alone, even though there were people everywhere. Daniel's chest tightened. That's very observant, Bug. I'm observant. It's my superpower. The rain started 20 minutes later. Soft at first, then harder. Daniel turned on the wipers, watching the road blur and clear. The GPS announced they were 40 minutes from the lodge. Behind them, exactly 15 minutes back on the same highway, Rachel Kim drove her Tesla with both hands on the wheel. Classical music played softly. NPR murmured the news. Everything was controlled, organized exactly as it should be. But her hands were shaking. She'd almost canceled 3 times this morning. Found reasons. Work emergencies, illness, anything to avoid 2 days of forced proximity with Daniel Harper and his daughter, and all the feelings she'd spent weeks trying to suppress. but she was VP of Publishing Operations. This was her retreat. She'd planned it. She couldn't not show up. Her phone rang through the car speakers. Her assistant. "Just confirming you're on your way. The caterers need to know about dietary restrictions. I'm 20 minutes out. Standard options are fine." And Harper checked in about his daughter's accommodations. "I confirmed the family suite is ready." Rachel's stomach flipped good. She ended the call and drove in silence, watching rain cascade down the windshield. This was fine. This was professional. This was just a work retreat with a colleague who happened to make her feel things she'd thought were dead, who had a daughter who somehow saw through Rachel's carefully constructed armor, who used a cracked coffee mug and probably had no idea that such a small broken thing could make Rachel's heart ache with wanting. She was 40 miles from the lodge when she nearly turned around. But she didn't. She kept driving north toward the mountain, toward whatever was waiting there. Daniel and Mia arrived first, pulling into the gravel parking lot just as the rain eased to a drizzle. The lodge rose before them, all wood and stone, and massive windows nestled against the forest with Mount Hood looming in the distance. "Wow," Mia breathed. "It's like a castle." "It's nice," Daniel agreed, gathering their bags. Inside the lobby was all exposed beams and a fireplace you could walk into. Other Cascade employees were already checking in suits traded for fleeces and jeans. The atmosphere was deliberately casual, designed to foster creativity and connection. Daniel got their key and found their suite on the second floor. 2 bedrooms connected by a shared living space, windows overlooking the forest. It was nicer than anywhere they'd stayed in years. Mia immediately claimed the bedroom with the view and started unpacking her art supplies. Daniel stood at the window watching more cars arrive in the parking lot below. And then he saw it. The Tesla. Silver, sleek, pulling into a spot near the entrance. Rachel Kim stepped out wearing jeans and a soft sweater instead of her usual suit. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders in dark waves. She looked younger, softer, real. Daniel's breath caught. She stood there for a moment looking up at the lodge, and even from this distance he could see the tension in her shoulders, the hesitation. Then she squared her shoulders, grabbed her bag, and walked inside. "Dad," Mia called from her room. "Can we explore before dinner?" "Sure, Bug, let me just—" His phone buzzed. Email notification. He checked it reflexively. From Rachel Kim, subject retreat schedule. To all attendees, welcome to Mount Hood Lodge. Dinner begins at 6:30 in the main dining hall. Please review the attached schedule for tomorrow's sessions. Looking forward to a productive 2 days. Professional. Distant. Exactly what he'd expected. Daniel pocketed his phone and went to explore the lodge with his daughter, trying not to think about the woman 3 floors above them, who was probably sitting in her room alone, looking out at the same forest, and feeling the same confusing tangle of anticipation and dread that he felt. The dining hall buzzed with conversation. Buffet-style dinner, casual seating, alcohol flowing freely. The Cascade team was relaxing, shedding their office personas, laughing too loud. Daniel sat with a group of junior editors, Mia beside him, while they talked about projects and office gossip. He kept his attention on his daughter, making sure she ate, half listening to the conversation, until Mia disappeared. One moment she was there, the next her seat was empty. Daniel's heart jumped. He scanned the room and found her almost immediately, walking toward a table in the corner where Rachel Kim sat alone reviewing notes on a tablet, a barely touched plate of food beside her. Daniel watched frozen as Mia approached the table, watched Rachel look up, surprise crossing her face, watched his daughter say something that made Rachel's mouth curve into an almost smile. Then Mia sat down, and Rachel, after a moment's hesitation, turned off her tablet. Daniel was halfway across the dining hall before he'd consciously decided to move. Mia was talking animatedly to Rachel, her hands gesturing the way they always did when she got excited about something. Rachel had set down her fork and was actually listening, not with the polite half-attention adults usually gave children, but really listening. He reached the table just as Mia was saying something about compasses. "I like your necklace. Is it a compass?" Rachel's hand went to the silver pendant at her throat, an unconscious gesture. "It was my grandmother's. She said, even when you're lost, you can find north." "Were you lost?" Mia asked, with the casual directness of 9-year-olds everywhere. Rachel's eyes lifted, meeting Daniel's over Mia's head. Something flickered in her expression, caught, vulnerable. "Sometimes," she said quietly. Then to Daniel, "Your daughter has good taste in jewelry. Mia, you can't just invite yourself to people's tables." "But she was eating alone. Nobody should eat alone. That's sad." "It's fine," Rachel said, surprising them both. She gestured to the empty chairs. "She's welcome to stay." Daniel hesitated. The smart thing would be to collect his daughter, apologize for the intrusion, and retreat to the safety of the junior editor's table, where conversations stayed shallow and uncomplicated. But Maya was already settling into her chair, and Rachel was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read, and before he knew it, he was sitting down too. "I hope we're not interrupting your work," he said, nodding at the tablet. "I was just reviewing tomorrow's agenda. It can wait." Rachel folded her hands on the table, and Daniel noticed her nails were unpolished, cut short. Practical. "Mia, right? Mia Harper. I'm 9. My dad talks about work a lot, but he never mentioned you were coming to this thing too." "Mia," Daniel warned. But Rachel's mouth curved into something almost like a smile. "I'm usually at these things. Someone has to make sure they run smoothly." "Are you the boss?" "Of some people, yes." "Are you my dad's boss?" "Technically." Mia absorbed this then. "Is he good at his job?" "Mia, that's enough." "He's very good at his job," Rachel said, her eyes meeting Daniel's again. "Your father has excellent instincts. He understands what makes a story work." The compliment caught him off guard. In 3 years at Cascade, Rachel had never commented on his work directly. Professional acknowledgement in meetings, sure, but never this, never personal. He reads a lot, Mia offered, like all the time. Sometimes I have to remind him to eat dinner because he's so into a manuscript. That's dedication, Rachel said. Or obsession, Daniel muttered. The line between the two is pretty thin. They looked at each other and Daniel felt that charge again. The same one from the hallway collision from her office 2 days ago. Like touching a live wire. Mia, oblivious to the undercurrent, kept talking. She told Rachel about school, about her art, about her theory that broken crayons made better colors because the wax mixed differently. Rachel listened with an attention that seemed genuine, asking questions, offering observations that showed she was actually thinking about what Mia said. At one point, a server came by to clear plates. Rachel ordered coffee. Daniel accepted a refill and Mia got hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. The dining hall around them gradually emptied as people drifted toward the lodge's bar or back to their rooms. "Do you have kids?" Mia asked suddenly. Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. "Mia, you can't ask people that." "Why not?" "It's just a question." Rachel's face went very still. For a moment, Daniel thought she might deflect, change the subject, end this conversation with the professional distance she was so good at maintaining. Instead, she said, "No. I don't." "Do you want them? That's really enough." Daniel said, his voice firmer, but Rachel shook her head slightly. "It's okay." She looked at Mia, choosing her words carefully. "I used to think I did. Then life got busy. Then it was too late. My teacher says it's never too late for anything." "Your teacher sounds wise. She's okay. She gives too much homework, though." Rachel's laugh was quiet, but genuine. The sound of it did something to Daniel's chest, made it hard to breathe right. The conversation drifted to safer topics after that. Books they'd read recently. Portland restaurants. The mountain visible through the windows when the clouds briefly parted. It was easy in a way Daniel hadn't expected. Natural, like they'd done this before. When Mia started yawning, Daniel checked his watch. Nearly 9. "We should get you to bed, Bug. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Mia protested, but without much energy. She hugged Rachel before leaving a quick, impulsive gesture that clearly surprised them both. "Thanks for letting me sit with you," Mia said. "You're not scary at all." Rachel's expression softened. "I'm glad you think so. Come on, kid." Daniel stood gathering his daughter. To Rachel, sorry again for the intrusion. It wasn't an intrusion. She looked up at him, and in the dim lighting of the dining hall he could see the loneliness in her face, the same loneliness he felt every night after Mia went to sleep. "She's wonderful, Daniel. You should be proud." The use of his first name sent heat through him. She'd never used it before. "I am," he managed. They left Rachel sitting alone at her table, her untouched coffee going cold, staring out at the dark forest beyond the windows. Upstairs, Daniel went through the bedtime routine on autopilot. Teeth brushed pajamas on Mia, tucked into the unfamiliar bed with her worn, stuffed rabbit. "I like her," Mia said sleepily. "Miss Kim. Rachel. Rachel, she's lonely, though." "What makes you say that?" "I can just tell. The way she looked when I asked about kids. And she was sitting all by herself, even though there were lots of people around. That's the loneliest kind of alone." Daniel kissed her forehead. "You're very wise for 9. "I know." She yawned. "Dad, yeah? Do you think Rachel needs friends?" He thought about Rachel's face across the dinner table. The way she'd really listened to Mia. The moment of pain when asked about children. "I think everyone needs friends, Bug. Even ice queens. She's not an ice queen. Tommy's dad says, Tommy's dad doesn't know what he's talking about. Now sleep." But long after Mia's breathing had evened out into sleep, Daniel stood at the window of his room, looking down at the lodge grounds. He could see the main deck empty, except for one figure standing at the railing. Even from here he recognized her. The fall of dark hair, the stillness of her posture. He should stay in his room, should respect boundaries, maintain professionalism, not complicate an already complicated situation. Instead, he grabbed his jacket and headed downstairs. The lodge was quiet, most guests either in the bar or in their rooms. Daniel found the door to the deck and stepped out into the cold October night. Rachel didn't turn at the sound of the door, but her shoulders tensed slightly. She knew someone was there. "Couldn't sleep?" Daniel asked, moving to the railing a respectful distance away. "Thinking." She glanced at him. "You, same." They stood in silence for a moment. The forest was dark beyond the deck's lights, full of the sounds of wind through Douglas fir and the distant rush of the river. "Your daughter is remarkable," Rachel said. "She is, though I can't take much credit. She came that way. I doubt that. Children become remarkable because someone shows them how." Daniel looked at her profile. "Are you always this serious? Usually." The corner of her mouth lifted. "Occupational hazard. What made you come tonight to the retreat, I mean? You could have sent someone else to run it." Rachel was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "I don't know, honestly. Part of me wishes I hadn't." "Why?" She turned to face him fully. "Because it's easier when I don't have to think about what I'm missing." The admission hung between them. Raw. True. "What are you missing?" Daniel asked quietly. "This." She gestured vaguely. "Connection. Conversation that isn't about quarterly earnings. Someone's child telling me I'm not scary. You're really not, you know, scary. Most people would disagree. Most people don't actually know you. And you do. No," Daniel admitted. "But I'd like to." Rachel's breath caught. He saw it the way her chest rose and fell a little faster, the way her fingers tightened on the railing. "That's not a good idea," she said. "Probably not. I'm your superior. There are policies, implications. I know." "So why—" She stopped, shook her head. "Why did you really bring Mia this weekend? You could have found a sitter, or called in sick." "Because she's my daughter, and I won't hide her away like she's inconvenient. And because part of me wanted to see what you'd do, if you'd allow it, if the policy you wrote actually meant something, or if it was just words on paper. It means something. I know that now." They were closer than before. Daniel didn't remember moving, but there were only inches between them. He could smell her perfume. Something subtle. Cedar and bergamot. "I should go back inside," Rachel said, but she didn't move. Probably. Daniel. His phone buzzed. The sound shattered the moment like dropped glass. He pulled it out and saw Mia's name on the screen. "Dad, bad dream, where are you?" "I have to go," he said, already moving toward the door. "Of course, she needs you." He paused in the doorway, looking back. Rachel had turned away facing the forest again, her silhouette lonely against the dark. Rachel, yes, this conversation. "Can we continue it tomorrow?" She didn't answer right away. Then, so quietly he almost missed it. Maybe. He went back inside, back to his daughter, but his heart was still on that deck. Saturday morning arrived with the weak sunlight filtering through clouds. Daniel woke to Mia bouncing on his bed at 6:30, full of energy, despite the unfamiliar surroundings. Dad, can we go exploring? I saw a trail behind the lodge." "After breakfast, and after my morning session." "But that's forever." "It's 3 hours. You'll survive." The kids' program started at 8. Daniel walked Mia to the designated room, a bright space filled with art supplies and books, and 3 other children whose parents had also taken advantage of the family track option. The counselor, a college student named Emma, greeted them warmly. "We've got a full day planned. Nature crafts this morning, then lunch, then a short hike to the creek." Mia was already eyeing the art supplies. "Can I draw?" "Absolutely. Whatever you want." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "Be good. I'll check on you at lunch." "I'm always good." Debatable. He left her there happy and occupied and made his way to the main conference room where the morning session was being held. The room was set up classroom-style chairs facing a presentation screen, coffee station in the back, 20 people milling around chatting, looking more relaxed than they ever did in the office. Rachel stood at the front laptop open reviewing slides. She wore dark jeans and a cream sweater, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. Professional, but softer. The bridge between her 2 worlds. She looked up as people started taking seats, her eyes scanning the room. They found Daniel held for a fraction of a second longer than necessary, then moved on. "Good morning," she said, her voice carrying easily. "Let's get started." The session was on strategic planning for the next fiscal year. Market trends, competitive analysis areas for growth. Rachel presented with her usual competence fielding questions, steering discussion, keeping everything on track. But Daniel noticed the small things. The way she twisted her grandmother's necklace when thinking. The way her eyes lit up when someone made a particularly insightful point. The way she looked at him when giving examples, like she was speaking directly to him even though she was addressing the room. Garrett sat 3 rows ahead, occasionally making dismissive sounds during the presentation. When Rachel brought up the literary imprint proposal as an example of innovative thinking, he actually snorted. "Literary fiction," he said loudly. "That's a vanity project, not a business strategy. We should focus on proven markets." Rachel's expression didn't change, but Daniel saw her jaw tighten. Markets evolve, Garrett. The companies that thrive are the ones willing to take calculated risks, or the ones that don't waste resources chasing critical acclaim over profits. I didn't realize you'd reviewed the business plan. I've seen enough failed imprints to know the pattern. Then you'll be interested in the comparative analysis Harper prepared. She looked directly at Daniel. "Would you like to share the highlights?" His heart rate spiked. He hadn't expected to present, but he had his laptop and he'd memorized most of the data anyway. "Sure," he said, standing up. The next 20 minutes blurred. Daniel talked through market research comparable imprints at other publishers, potential acquisition targets, projected costs and revenues. He'd done his homework. The numbers were solid. When he finished, there was a beat of silence. Then Susan Park started clapping and others joined in. "That's thorough work," Rachel said. Her tone was professional, but her eyes held something warmer. Pride, maybe. "This is what I mean by strategic innovation. Taking risks, yes, but informed risks backed by research and vision." Garrett looked like he'd bitten into something sour, but said nothing. The session continued. Other topics, other discussions. But Daniel couldn't focus. His mind was on Rachel's face when he'd presented. The way she'd supported him publicly staked her professional credibility on his idea. When they broke for lunch, people clustered in small groups. Daniel headed straight for the kids' program to check on Mia. He found her at a table absolutely covered in drawings. Dozens of them. All variations on the same theme, broken things made beautiful. "Look what I made." She held up a picture of shattered glass pieces forming a butterfly. "That's incredible, Bug. Emma says I have a unique perspective." "What's a perspective? It's how you see the world, and yours is definitely unique." They had lunch together in the main dining hall, Mia chattering about her morning about the other kids, about how she'd taught them her broken crayon theory. Daniel listened with half his attention, the other half tracking Rachel's movement through the room. She was talking to the caterers, handling some issue with dietary restrictions. Always working, always managing, never stopping. "Dad, you're not listening." "I am. You were saying about the crayons." "That was 5 minutes ago. I asked if we can go on the hike this afternoon." "What hike?" "The one they announced. For people who want to. Emma said it's 3 miles and there's a waterfall." Daniel checked his phone. Sure enough, an email about optional afternoon activities. wine tasting, spa treatments, kayaking, or a guided hike to Salmon Creek Falls. Most of the executives would choose wine or spa. Daniel was about to sign them up for the hike when a voice spoke behind him. "Mind if I join?" He turned. Rachel stood there with a plate of salad, looking uncertain in a way he'd never seen her. "The hike," she clarified. "I could use some air, clear thinking." "Of course," Daniel said. "We'd be happy to have you." Mia perked up. "Really? You're coming? If that's okay with you." "Definitely okay. This is going to be so fun." Rachel's smile was small but genuine. "I hope so." They met at the trailhead at 2. The sky had cleared to high, thin clouds. The air was crisp and smelled of pine and damp earth. Most of the other hikers were younger staff members, but Rachel had changed into proper hiking boots and a fleece jacket. "You came prepared," Daniel observed. "I run marathons. Hiking seems manageable." "You run marathons. Is that surprising?" "No, I just didn't know." "There's a lot we don't know about each other," Rachel said quietly. The trail started gentle winding through old-growth forest. Douglas fir trees rose like cathedral columns, their branches filtering the sunlight into green-gold shafts. The forest floor was carpeted with moss and ferns, everything lush from recent rain. Mia ran ahead, staying in sight but far enough to give them space. Daniel suspected it was deliberate. His daughter had a gift for reading situations. "She's energetic," Rachel said, watching Mia investigate a fallen log. "That's putting it mildly. Sometimes I think she has a battery I don't know about." "How long have you been a single parent?" 5 years. Rebecca left when Mia was 4. "That must have been difficult." "It is, but we manage." He paused. "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask." "Last night you said you used to think you wanted kids. What changed?" Rachel was quiet for several steps. Around them, the forest breathed with wind and bird calls and the distant sound of running water. "I got married at 30, she finally said, "to a man who seemed perfect on paper. Shared goals, compatible lifestyles. We decided to wait a few years before trying for children. Build our careers first. Then, when we tried, nothing happened. I'm sorry. 18 months of trying, doctors, tests. Turns out I have severe endometriosis, diminished ovarian reserve. The chances of natural conception were less than 5%. Daniel heard the careful control in her voice, the way she recited medical terms like facts instead of heartbreak. We talked about IVF adoption, all the options. Michael said he understood, said it didn't matter. But it did matter. I could see it in his eyes every time we were around friends with babies. Every time a family dinner turned into everyone asking when we were going to have kids. He left. Eventually. He said it was about compatibility, different life goals, but I knew. I couldn't give him what he wanted, and I was too focused on work anyway, too driven, too cold. That's not true. Rachel looked at him. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Cold people don't support their employees' dreams. Cold people don't listen to 9-year-olds talk about broken crayons. Cold people don't stand alone on decks at night wishing things were different. Her eyes filled. She looked away quickly, blinking hard. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. "I shouldn't have. No, it's okay. I'm just not used to people seeing me. Really seeing me. Maybe you don't let them. Maybe it's safer that way." Ahead, Mia had stopped where the trail split. She turned back, waving. "Which way?" "Left," Rachel called. "That's toward the falls." They continued walking. The trail climbed, now switchbacking up a ridge. Daniel's legs burned pleasantly, his breath coming harder. Rachel kept pace easily, her stride confident. "What about you?" she asked. "You mentioned Mia's mother left. Do you ever think about trying again? Relationships, I mean." "Honestly, I haven't had the energy. Between work and being a dad, there's not much left over." "That must be lonely." "It is, but it's also safe. Mia's been through enough. I can't risk bringing someone into her life who might leave." "So you've built walls," says the woman with an entire fortress. Rachel laughed. The sound was bright and unexpected in the quiet forest. "Fair point." The trail leveled out following the creek now. Water rushed over smooth stones, white and silver and impossibly clear. Mia hopped from rock to rock, her arms spread for balance. "Careful," Daniel called. "I am being careful. This is my careful." Rachel smiled, watching her. "She reminds me of my grandmother, fearless, always finding joy in small things. The one who gave you the compass necklace." Rachel's hand went to her throat. "Yes, she died when I was in college. Pancreatic cancer. She was the only person who really understood me. What would she think of your life now? Probably that I'm doing exactly what I always do. Achieving goals while missing the point. Which is that success without connection is just expensive loneliness." They reached the waterfall 20 minutes later. Salmon Creek Falls cascaded 40 feet down a basalt cliff face, creating a deep pool at its base. The sound was tremendous, drowning out everything else. Mist rose in clouds, catching sunlight, creating shifting rainbows. Mia was already at the edge of the pool, kneeling to touch the water. "It's freezing." Other hikers had arrived too, spreading out along the rocky shore, taking photos, enjoying the spectacle. But Daniel only had eyes for Rachel. She stood at the water's edge, face lifted to catch the spray, eyes closed. For a moment, she looked completely at peace. No armor. No walls. Just a woman feeling the cold mist on her skin. "It's beautiful," she said when she opened her eyes. "Yeah," Daniel agreed, but he was looking at her. Their eyes met. Held. Something passed between them that felt like recognition. Like coming home to a place you'd never been, but somehow always knew. Mia's voice cut through the moment. "Can we sit on those rocks? I want to draw this." They found a large, flat boulder warm from the sun. Mia settled with her sketchbook while Daniel and Rachel sat on either side watching the waterfall. "Tell me something true," Rachel said suddenly. "What?" "Something true about yourself. Something you don't usually tell people." Daniel thought about it. "I adopted Mia, legally, I mean. When I married Rebecca, she already had Mia from a previous relationship. The biological father was never in the picture. I adopted her when she was 2. When Rebecca left, she offered to take Mia with her, but Mia chose me." Rachel was quiet. "Then, she chose well. Your turn, something true." Rachel watched the waterfall for a long moment. "I'm 39 years old, and I've built an entire life around work because it's the only thing that can't leave me, the only thing I can control. And I'm terrified that I've wasted so much time proving myself that I've forgotten how to be a person." The vulnerability in her voice cracked something open in Daniel's chest. "You haven't forgotten," he said softly. "You're just out of practice." "That's generous. It's true. You listened to Mia last night like she was the most interesting person in the world. You supported my proposal even when it would have been easier to play it safe. You came on this hike when you could be in the spa with wine. Maybe I'm just avoiding people. Or maybe you're trying to find your way back to yourself." Rachel turned to look at him. "How do you do that? What? See people really see them, past all the walls and pretending?" "I'm a parent. It's required. Kids are terrible at hiding their feelings. You learn to read between the lines. I'm not a kid." "No, but you're human, and humans aren't meant to be alone all the time." Before Rachel could respond, the sky darkened dramatically. Thunder rumbled in the distance. "That's not good," Daniel said, looking up. The first drops fell seconds later. Then the sky opened. Rain poured down in sheets, instantly soaking everything. Hikers scrambled for cover, heading back up the trail or crowding under inadequate tree branches. The overhang. Rachel pointed to a large rock outcropping 20 feet away, its roof extending out far enough to create shelter. They ran. Mia squealed with delight, splashing through puddles that were already forming. By the time they reached the overhang, all 3 were drenched, but dry underneath the rock roof. The space was maybe 8 feet deep, tall enough to stand. Other hikers had the same idea, but there was room. Mia was laughing, her hair plastered to her head. "This is an adventure." Rachel smiled, pushing wet hair out of her face. Water dripped from her nose. Her mascara had smudged slightly, making her look younger, more real. "When's the last time you had an adventure?" she asked Daniel. "Before I became Dad, I guess." I don't think I ever have. Not a real one." Lightning flashed. Thunder followed almost immediately, loud enough to feel in their chests. Mia startled instinctively, grabbing both their hands. And there it was. The 3 of them connected through Mia's small hands. Daniel on one side, Rachel on the other, rain pounding down outside their shelter. Rachel looked down at Mia's hand in hers, then up at Daniel. Her eyes were wide, vulnerable, scared of what this might mean. Daniel squeezed Mia's hand, which squeezed Rachel's. A circuit of connection. "It's okay," he said softly. "We're safe here." "I know," Rachel whispered, but her voice shook. They stood like that while the storm raged outside. Other hikers chatted nervously, checked phones for weather updates, complained about the timing. But Daniel barely heard them. He was too aware of Rachel. The way she held Mia's hand carefully, like it was something precious. The way her breath had quickened. The way she kept glancing at him with an expression that was equal parts terror and hope. The rain eased, gradually heavy downpour becoming steady drizzle. The hikers started heading back, eager to get to the lodge and dry clothes. "We should go too," Daniel said reluctantly. Rachel nodded, releasing Mia's hand slowly like it hurt. The hike back took longer. The trail was muddy, requiring careful footing. Mia walked between them now, still chattering happily about the adventure, but Daniel and Rachel were quiet. They were both thinking about the same thing. About hands connected. About walls crumbling. About the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, they didn't have to be lonely anymore. By the time they reached the lodge, it was nearly 5. Wet hikers streamed inside, heading for their rooms and hot showers. In the lobby, Rachel paused. "I should go change. Thank you for letting me join you." "Thank you for coming," Daniel said. "Rachel," Mia said suddenly. "You're coming to dinner, right? You can sit with us again." Rachel looked at Daniel uncertain. "Please," he said. "We'd like that." "Okay," she said softly. "Okay." She walked toward the stairs and Daniel watched her go, his heart doing complicated things in his chest. "Dad," Mia said. "Yeah, Bug. I think the ice is melting." "What?" "Nothing. Can we get hot chocolate before dinner?" "Absolutely." That evening, after getting Mia settled and showered and into clean clothes after his own shower, where he stood under hot water trying to process everything, Daniel found himself restless. Dinner was at 7. It was barely 6:30. Most people were in the bar or still getting ready. He should stay with Mia, help her pick out something for dinner, be a responsible parent. Instead, he told her to finish her drawing while he stepped outside for some air. The deck was empty, still wet from the rain. The forest beyond was dark except for scattered solar lights along the path. Daniel stood at the railing, breathing in the cold air, trying to steady himself. He heard the door open behind him, knew, without looking, who it was. Rachel joined him at the railing, keeping a careful distance. She'd changed into dry clothes, her hair loose around her shoulders, starting to dry in soft waves. "Couldn't stay away?" Daniel asked. "I saw you from my window." She paused. "And no, I couldn't. Rachel." "Let me say this before I lose my nerve." She turned to face him. "Today, on that hike, standing under that overhang with you and Mia, that was the first time in years I've felt like I was part of something, like I belonged somewhere that wasn't a boardroom or an empty apartment. Daniel's heart hammered. I felt it too. This is complicated. I know. I'm your boss. There are policies, implications for both of us. I know that too. So why? Her voice broke. Why does this feel so right when it should feel wrong? Because sometimes the heart knows things the head hasn't figured out yet. Rachel laughed a shaky sound. That's very poetic for a Saturday evening. I have my moments. They stood there inches apart, the space between them charged with possibility. Daniel could see her pulse jumping in her throat, could see the way her hands trembled slightly before she gripped the railing. "What happens now?" she whispered. "I don't know, but I know I want to find out. I haven't done this in years. The whole dating thing. I don't even know if I remember how. We could figure it out together. It might be a disaster. It might be amazing." Rachel closed her eyes. "I'm terrified." "Me too." She opened her eyes, looking at him with such naked vulnerability it hurt. "Daniel, I need you to understand. I can't have children. If that's something you want, I have Mia. But if you wanted more, I want you to stop telling me what I want and let me figure it out for myself." He stepped closer. "You think I haven't thought about this, about the complications, and the risks, and the million ways this could go wrong, but I'm tired of being safe, tired of being alone, tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel when I look at you. What do you feel?" "Like maybe I could be happy again. Really happy. Not just going through the motions, but actually living." A tear slid down Rachel's cheek. "I don't want to hurt you or Mia." "Then don't." "What if I'm not good at this? At relationships and family and all the things I gave up for my career? What if you're better at it than you think?" They were so close now, he could see flecks of silver in her gray eyes, could count her eyelashes if he wanted. "Daniel," she breathed. "Yeah. If we do this, there's no going back. Everything changes. I know. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me we'll be honest. No games. No pretending. If this doesn't work, we face it head on. I promise. And promise me you'll tell me if I'm screwing up, because I probably will. A lot. Rachel, promise me. I promise. Now, promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll let me in. Really let me in, past all the walls and armor and fear." Her breath caught. "That's the scariest thing you could ask. I know. Promise anyway." "I promise." Then his phone buzzed. Both of them jumped. Daniel wanted to throw it into the forest. He checked the screen. "Mia." "Dad, where are you? Emma's here to walk us to dinner, and you're not in the room." Reality crashed back in. Responsibilities. The fact that they were standing on a public deck where anyone could see them. The fact that tomorrow they'd be back at work with all its complications. I have to go. Daniel said the words physically painful. I know. Dinner. I'll be there. He started to walk away, then turned back. Rachel. Yes. This isn't over. This conversation. We're not done. She smiled, small and tentative but real. No. We're not done. He went back inside, his heart racing, his mind spinning, every nerve in his body alive with possibility. Behind him, Rachel stayed on the deck for a long time, her hand pressed against her heart, feeling it beat hard and fast, and terrifyingly hopeful for the first time in years. Sunday morning brought weak sunlight and the hollow feeling of endings. Daniel woke early, watching dawn light creep across the ceiling of his room at the lodge. Beside him, Mia was still asleep, curled around her stuffed rabbit. In a few hours, they'd pack up, drive back to Portland, return to normal life. Except nothing felt normal anymore. He thought about Rachel on the deck last night. The vulnerability in her face, the way she'd promised to let him in, the way his whole body had ached with wanting to kiss her before Mia's text interrupted. His phone showed 6:47 a.m. Checkout wasn't until 11. The final morning session started at 9, a casual wrap-up over breakfast buffet. He should shower, pack, let Mia sleep a little longer. Instead, he pulled on jeans and a sweatshirt and headed downstairs. The lodge was quiet, only a few early risers moving through the lobby. Daniel grabbed coffee from the self-serve station and wandered toward the windows overlooking the forest. Morning mist hung between the trees, ghostly and beautiful. "You're up early." He turned. Rachel stood behind him, wearing running clothes, her hair pulled back, face flushed from exercise. "Couldn't sleep," Daniel said. "You a 5-mile run. Helps me think." And did it work? Rachel moved to stand beside him at the window, close enough that he could smell her shampoo. Something clean and simple, not the cedar and bergamot perfume from before. "No," she admitted. "I'm still terrified. Of what we talked about last night. Of everything." She looked at him. "Of how much I want this. Of how badly I could mess it up. Of what happens on Monday when we're back at the office and reality sets in. So we figure it out together. People are already talking, Daniel. At dinner last night I saw the looks, the whispers. And that was just from me sitting at your table twice. Let them talk. Easy for you to say. You're not the one they'll accuse of showing favoritism." Daniel's stomach tightened. "Is that what you think? That if we do this, people will assume you're giving me special treatment? Don't you? No. I think people will see what's actually happening. Two adults choosing each other despite the complications." Rachel shook her head. "You're naive if you think it's that simple. And you're scared, which I get, but don't let fear decide for you." They stood there in tense silence. Around them, more people were starting to appear. Executives in casual clothes heading for coffee, chatting about the weekend. "I should shower before breakfast," Rachel said finally. "I'll see you at the session." She walked away before Daniel could respond. He watched her go, feeling the weight of everything unsaid pressing against his chest. The final morning session was held in the main dining hall breakfast buffet style with round tables scattered throughout. Casual, relaxed. Everyone already mentally checked out and heading home. Daniel sat with Mia and a group of junior editors. Mia was showing off her weekend's drawings, proudly displaying her broken crayon theory to anyone who'd listen. Rachel spoke from the front of the room, thanking everyone for their participation, highlighting key takeaways, reminding them that Monday meant back to business as usual. Her eyes found Daniel's across the room, held for a fraction of a second, then moved on. Professional, distant, like last night had never happened. Garrett Mills leaned over from the next table. Looks like the Ice Queen's thawed a bit this weekend. Wonder what changed. Daniel ignored him, focusing on his eggs. Saw her hiking with you yesterday, very cozy. We were on the same trail, not exactly scandalous. If you say so. Garrett smirked. Just funny how she's suddenly so interested in your proposals. Makes a person wonder. Wonder what, how far you're willing to go for a promotion. Daniel's fork clattered against his plate. Several people turned to look. Careful, Mills, he said quietly. That's a dangerous accusation. Just an observation. Garrett stood picking up his plate, but you might want to watch yourself. Office politics can get messy when personal feelings get involved. He walked away, leaving Daniel's appetite completely gone. Checkout was organized chaos. Bags loaded into cars, goodbyes exchanged, promises to follow up on Monday. Daniel strapped Mia into the Subaru's back seat and started the drive back to Portland. That was the best weekend ever, Mia announced. Can we do it again? It was a work thing, Bug, not really something we can repeat. But Rachel was there, and we had adventures. That makes it the best. Daniel glanced at the rearview mirror, seeing Mia's expectant face. Did you like Rachel? Duh, she's amazing. She listened to all my crayon theories and didn't think they were weird. And she held my hand during the storm. And she looked at you the way Princess Jasmine looks at Aladdin. What? No, she didn't. Yes, she did. I have eyes, Dad. You're 9. So I can still see when grown-ups like each other. Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. It's complicated. Why? Because she's my boss. Because there are rules about that kind of thing. Because if people think I'm getting special treatment because of personal feelings, it could hurt both our careers. Mia was quiet for a moment, then, that's dumb. Maybe. But it's how the world works. Then the world is dumb too. He couldn't argue with that. 15 minutes behind them on the same highway, Rachel drove in silence. No music, no NPR. Just the hum of her Tesla and her own thoughts spiraling. Her phone rang through the car's speakers, her mother. Rachel almost didn't answer. But ignoring her mother only delayed the inevitable. Hi, Mom. Rachel, I've been trying to reach you all weekend. How was your retreat? Fine. Productive. You sound strange. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm just driving. You're lying. I can always tell. What happened? Rachel's hands gripped the steering wheel. I met someone. Silence on the other end. Then, oh my God, really? Tell me everything. There's nothing to tell. It's complicated. How complicated? He's a colleague. Single father. It probably won't work out. But you want it to. It wasn't a question. Rachel's mother had always been able to read her even over the phone, even across the miles of distance Rachel had carefully constructed between them. I don't know what I want, Rachel said. Yes, you do. You're just scared. Of course I'm scared. You know my track record with relationships. Michael was wrong for you. You know that. Maybe everyone's wrong for me. Maybe I'm just not built for this. Rachel Kim, I raised you better than that kind of defeatist thinking. Her mother's voice turned sharp. You've spent 15 years proving yourself in your career. Maybe it's time to prove to yourself that you deserve happiness too. Rachel's throat tightened. What if I mess it up? What if you don't? They talked for another 10 minutes before Rachel said she needed to focus on driving. She ended the call feeling both better and worse, more certain, more terrified. Monday morning hit like cold water. Daniel dropped Mia at school, rode the crowded bus downtown, and walked into Cascade Books at 8:47 a.m. Exactly on time. Exactly like always. Except everything was different. People watched him walk to his desk. Conversations paused when he passed. Amy from editorial gave him a knowing smile that made his skin crawl. He'd barely sat down when his computer dinged with an all-staff email. From Rachel Kim, subject: organizational changes effective immediately. Daniel Harper is promoted to editorial director of our new literary imprint. This position recognizes Daniel's vision, market analysis, and strategic thinking. Please join me in congratulating him on this well-deserved advancement. The editorial department erupted in a mix of congratulations and pointed silence. Daniel stared at the email, his stomach dropping. She'd promoted him without warning, without discussion. Just put it out there for everyone to see. Amy appeared at his desk. Congratulations, that's huge. Thanks, he managed. You must be thrilled. I'm surprised. Why, your proposal was brilliant. Everyone said so at the retreat. But not everyone was saying that now. Daniel could feel the eyes on him, could hear the whispers starting up again. Garrett appeared, coffee in hand, expression sour. Congratulations, Harper. That was fast. I didn't know she was announcing it today. Sure you didn't. Garrett leaned against the cubicle wall. Must be nice. Cozy hike on Saturday, promotion on Monday. Real meritocracy we've got here. My proposal was solid. You heard the presentation. Oh, your work is fine. It's the timing that's interesting. He took a sip of coffee. How long have you two been sleeping together? Daniel stood up so fast his chair rolled backward. "Watch your mouth." "Hit a nerve. You're making accusations you can't prove about something that isn't happening." "Yet," Garrett said. "Give it time. Office romances always come out eventually." "There's no office romance." "Then why is she suddenly so invested in your career? Kim doesn't promote people on a whim. She doesn't even talk to most of us unless it's about quarterly numbers. But you get FaceTime at the retreat, public support for your projects, and now a promotion. Come on." Other people were watching now, listening. Daniel could see the speculation spreading like wildfire. "I earned this position," he said quietly. "My work speaks for itself." Does it? Or does she speak for it? Daniel wanted to punch him, wanted to defend Rachel, wanted to explain that whatever was or wasn't happening between them had nothing to do with his professional qualifications. But explaining would only make it worse. "I have work to do," he said instead, sitting back down. Garrett shrugged. "Just be careful, Harper. When you're sleeping your way to the top, there's nowhere to go but down." He walked away, leaving Daniel shaking with anger and shame, and the horrible certainty that this was exactly what Rachel had predicted. By noon, the rumors had spread through the entire building. Daniel heard them in the elevator, in the break room, in the bathroom. Everyone had a theory about how close he and Rachel had gotten at the retreat, how she'd shown favoritism, how his promotion was more about personal reasons than professional merit. He tried to work, couldn't focus, kept reading the same manuscript page over and over without absorbing a word. At 2:30, he'd had enough. He took the stairs to the 6th floor, ignoring the knowing looks from people in the stairwell. Rachel's office door was open. She sat at her desk reviewing something on her computer, looking perfectly composed. He knocked once and walked in, closing the door behind him. "Daniel," she said, looking up, "congratulations are in order. Did you promote me because of this weekend?" Her expression didn't change. "I promoted you because your proposal was exceptional, and your work merits advancement. People are saying I slept my way into this position. People always say something. I can't control that. But you could have discussed it with me first, given me warning before announcing it to the entire company." Rachel set down her pen. "Would you have preferred I wait? Give the impression I was uncertain about the decision. I would have preferred you consider how this looks, for both of us." "I did consider it. I decided merit matters more than optics." "That's easy for you to say. You're not the one people are calling the boss's pet." Something flickered in Rachel's eyes. Hurt, maybe, but it was gone in a second, replaced by ice. "I see. So you'd rather I hadn't promoted you at all. I'd rather you had been honest about your reasons." "My reasons are professional. Your proposal was thoroughly researched. Your vision is sound. You're the right person for this position. And the fact that we nearly kissed Saturday night had nothing to do with it." Rachel stood up, her face flushing. "How dare you? I have spent 15 years building my reputation in this company. I don't compromise my professional judgment for personal feelings. Then maybe you're not being objective. Excuse me, maybe you promoted me because you wanted to. Because it gave you an excuse to work with me more, to have a reason for continued contact. Rachel's jaw clenched. You think very highly of yourself. I think you're not being honest, with me or with yourself. I think you're letting insecurity and other people's opinions dictate how you see your own worth. And I think maybe you didn't think this through. They stared at each other across the desk. The air between them crackled with tension, anger, hurt, something else neither wanted to name. The position is yours, Rachel said, finally, her voice cold. If you don't want it, turn it down. HR can send out a retraction this afternoon. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. What matters is whether you can handle this responsibility or if you're going to let office gossip undermine your confidence. That's not fair. Neither is questioning my professional integrity. Daniel's anger drained away, leaving only exhaustion. I'm not trying to question your integrity. I'm trying to protect both of us from a situation that's already spiraling. Then what do you suggest? I don't know. Maybe this was a mistake. He wasn't sure what he meant. The promotion, the weekend, whatever had started growing between them, maybe all of it. Rachel's face went very still. I see. Rachel, get out of my office. Can we just talk about this? We're done talking. You've made your position clear. Now leave. Her voice was steel. Final. Daniel recognized the wall slamming back into place. He left, walking past Maya's curious expression, taking the stairs back down because he couldn't stand the thought of small talk in the elevator. Behind her desk, Rachel waited until she heard his footsteps fade. Then she locked her office door, closed the blinds, and allowed herself exactly 60 seconds to shake. The days that followed were a special kind of hell. Daniel threw himself into work, staying late every night to prove he deserved the promotion. Building his editorial team, reviewing submissions, developing the imprint's brand strategy. He was meticulous, professional, beyond reproach. But the rumors didn't stop. They evolved. Now people whispered about the falling out, about how Rachel looked right through him in meetings, about the obvious tension whenever they were in the same room. Garrett made pointed comments at every opportunity. Others watched with barely concealed interest, waiting for the drama to unfold further. Mia noticed her father coming home later, more stressed, less present. "Did you and Rachel have a fight?" she asked one night over dinner. "It's complicated, Bug. You keep saying that, but it doesn't seem complicated. You like her, she likes you. Why is that hard? Because sometimes adult feelings come with adult consequences." That's a dumb answer. Yeah, it is. She was quiet for a moment, pushing pasta around her plate. "I miss her." "What?" "Rachel. I miss her. She was nice to me. She listened. And she made you smile in a way you don't smile anymore. Daniel's chest ached. I'm sorry. For what? For letting you get attached to someone who might not be around. And that's life though, right? People come and go. Mom taught me that. But you told me the right people choose to stay. Maybe Rachel's one of the right people and you're just scared. Out of the mouths of 9-year-olds. Rachel's days weren't any better. She worked longer hours than usual, which was saying something. Took every meeting, every call, every opportunity to avoid thinking about Daniel Harper and the look on his face when she'd told him to leave her office. She'd meant to help him, to reward good work, to show the company that merit mattered. Instead, she'd created exactly the situation she'd feared. Divided loyalties, professional complications, personal feelings bleeding into workplace dynamics. Her mother called twice. Rachel didn't answer. Maya asked if she was okay at least once a day. Rachel said she was fine with increasing irritation. At night, alone in her pristine apartment, Rachel opened and closed the draft email to HR a dozen times. The one requesting to reverse Daniel's promotion. The one that would make everything go back to how it was before. Except it wouldn't. They couldn't unknow what they knew now. Couldn't unfeel what they felt. On Thursday night, 3 weeks after the retreat, Rachel made a decision. She drafted a formal request to HR. Not to reverse Daniel's promotion, but to restructure reporting lines so his position reported directly to Susan Park instead of operations. It would remove the direct conflict of interest, would make it clear their professional relationship was separate from whatever personal feelings existed. It was the right thing to do, the ethical thing. It also felt like giving up. She sent the email at 11:47 p.m. and went to bed without sleeping. Friday morning, Daniel arrived at work to find an email from HR requesting a meeting at 10 a.m. His stomach dropped. They were taking back the promotion. They'd figured out the optics were too bad. He was about to be professionally humiliated. He spent the next 2 hours in a state of low-grade panic, unable to focus on anything. At 9:58, he headed to HR on the 5th floor. Sarah Chen, the HR director, greeted him with a professional smile. "Daniel, thanks for coming. Please sit." He sat, bracing himself. "We've received a request from Rachel Kim to restructure your reporting relationship. Instead of your position reporting up through operations, it would report directly to Susan Park in editorial. This would maintain clear separation while preserving your role and responsibilities." Daniel blinked. "I don't understand." "It's a conflict of interest management strategy. Given that you and Ms. Kim have developed a personal relationship, this ensures appropriate professional boundaries." "We haven't developed a relationship." Sarah gave him a kind look. "Daniel, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I know when two people are circling each other. This restructure protects you both. Unless you object." "No, I didn't know she'd requested this." She filed it last night. It goes into effect Monday. Any questions? Daniel shook his head, mind spinning. After the meeting, he stood in the hallway staring at nothing. Rachel had restructured his position, had removed the conflict of interest, had done exactly what needed to be done to make this possible. Without telling him, without asking, just fix the problem. He should be grateful, relieved. Instead, he felt angry. At her for making decisions without him, at himself for questioning her integrity, at the whole situation for being so impossibly complicated. His phone buzzed. Mia's school. Mr. Harper, this is Nurse Patterson. Mia's complaining of severe stomach pain. We think you should come get her. Everything else vanished. I'm on my way. He ran. 20 minutes later, Daniel burst through the school nurse's office to find Mia curled on the cot, face pale hands clutching her stomach. Bug, what hurts? Everything right here. She pointed to her lower right abdomen. The nurse approached, her expression serious. How long has she been in pain? She said it started this morning, but got really bad an hour ago. Mr. Harper, I think this might be appendicitis. You should take her to the ER. The drive to Providence Hospital was the longest 15 minutes of Daniel's life. Mia cried in the back seat, every bump making her gasp with pain. He talked to her the whole way, keeping her focused, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. Emergency rooms on Friday afternoons were chaos. But one look at Mia's face and the triage nurse moved fast. Within an hour, they had a diagnosis: acute appendicitis. Surgery needed immediately before it ruptured. Daniel signed consent forms with shaking hands, watched them wheel his daughter away. Stood alone in the surgical waiting area while the world narrowed to one thought: please let her be okay. He called the school to let them know. Called Mrs. Chen downstairs to explain why he wouldn't be home. Called work to leave a voicemail about a family emergency. He didn't call Rachel. What would he say? We're fighting, and my daughter's in surgery, and I'm falling apart. The surgery took 90 minutes, the longest 90 minutes of Daniel's life. When the surgeon finally emerged, Daniel's legs nearly gave out. She did great. Appendix was inflamed, but we got it before rupture. She'll need to stay overnight for observation, but she should recover completely. Daniel's breath left in a rush. Thank you. God, thank you. They let him into recovery 20 minutes later. Mia was groggy from anesthesia, but her eyes opened when he took her hand. Hey, Bug, you did so good. Dad, I'm here, I'm right here. It hurts. I know. They'll give you medicine. You're going to be fine. She drifted back to sleep. Daniel sat beside her bed, holding her hand, feeling the weight of the day crash over him. He must have dozed off because when he opened his eyes, the light in the room had changed. Early evening. Mia was still sleeping, and Rachel Kim stood in the doorway. She wore jeans and a sweater, her hair down, face uncertain. She held a wrapped package in her hands. Daniel stared, convinced he was hallucinating. How did you Your calendar. You had Mia's soccer practice blocked for this afternoon. When you didn't show at the office and didn't answer your phone, I called the school. They told me. She took a hesitant step inside. Is she okay? Appendectomy. They got it before it ruptured. She'll recover. Rachel's breath shuddered out. Thank God. You didn't have to come. Yes, I did. She moved closer, setting the package on the bedside table. I brought her this, a sketchbook, professional-grade colored pencils, for when she's feeling better. Daniel's throat tightened. Rachel, when I heard she was in surgery, I couldn't breathe. I was in a meeting with New York and I just couldn't breathe. I kept thinking, what if something happened and I never got to tell her that she's remarkable? That the hour I spent with her at dinner was one of the best hours I've had in years. That she made me feel like maybe I could be part of something. She's okay. She's going to be fine. I know. But sitting in my office not knowing, all I could think was that I couldn't lose this, couldn't lose you, either of you. Not because of fear or pride or stupid professional complications. Mia stirred her eyes, fluttering open. She saw Rachel and smiled, weak but genuine. You came. Rachel moved to the bed, sitting carefully on the edge. Of course I came. I heard you were very brave today. They took out a part I don't need. Dad said it's like editing a book. Cut out what doesn't work. Rachel laughed softly, looking at Daniel. Your dad has a way with explanations. Are you guys still fighting? Mia asked. We weren't fighting, Daniel said. Yes, you were, I could tell. But you can't fight anymore because life's too short and I just had surgery and that means you have to be nice to each other. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. She's absolutely right. Rachel, Daniel started. Can I talk to you in the hallway? He nodded, following her out. A nurse passed by checking charts. Somewhere down the hall, a machine beeped steadily. They stood near the window overlooking the parking lot. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Everything smelled like antiseptic and fear. I'm sorry, Rachel said, for promoting you without warning. For not considering how it would affect you, for thinking I could control the situation through sheer force of will. I'm sorry, too, for questioning your integrity, for letting other people's opinions make me doubt myself, for walking away instead of fighting for what we started. I restructured your position, filed it with HR last night. I know. They told me this morning. I should have told you first. Probably. But I understand why you didn't. They looked at each other. All the walls they'd rebuilt over the past 3 weeks were still there, but crumbling. Daniel, when I got that call about Mia, when I drove here, not knowing if she was okay, I realized something. What? I've spent 15 years protecting myself from loss by never letting anyone close enough to lose, and all I've done is guarantee my own loneliness. Her voice broke. I don't want to be lonely anymore. Neither do I. But I'm terrified of this, of us, of all the ways I could fail at it. So we figure it out together, like I said before. What if people at work let them talk? I'm in a different reporting line now. We followed the rules, did everything by the book. If people want to make assumptions, that's their problem. You're really okay with that? No, but I'm more okay with it than I am with losing you. Rachel stepped closer. I can't have children, Daniel. If you want more kids someday, I want you to stop telling me what I want. But I have Mia. She's enough. More than enough. And family doesn't only come one way. You taught me that, actually. With your compass necklace. Finding north when you're lost. Sometimes north isn't a direction. It's a person. Rachel's tears spilled over. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. And I don't deserve you either, which means we're even. Daniel, I'm transferring departments. Already submitted the paperwork before Mia got sick. Moving to literary like we discussed. No operations oversight. Complete separation. You're sacrificing your promotion. I'm choosing what matters. I'm choosing you. Us. Whatever this is or could be. That's not sacrifice, Rachel whispered. That's choosing right. Yeah, it is. They were inches apart now, close enough that Daniel could see the tears on her cheeks, could feel her breath, could count the silver flecks in her gray eyes. Can I kiss you? He asked. Here in a hospital hallway. Here. Now. Before I lose my nerve again. Rachel smiled through her tears. Yes. The kiss was soft, tentative. Everything they'd been building toward through coffee stains and mountain hikes and honest conversations and fear overcome. It tasted like salt and possibility and coming home to somewhere you'd never been. When they pulled apart, Rachel laughed. That was long overdue. I was going to say perfect, but yes, also that. A nurse walked by, glancing at them with a knowing smile. They pulled apart, suddenly aware of where they were. We should get back, Daniel said. Mia will wonder. Probably already figured it out. Your daughter is disturbingly perceptive. Tell me about it. They walked back to Mia's room together. Not touching, but close. Changed. Mia took one look at them and grinned, despite the pain medication making her drowsy. Finally. Finally, what? Daniel asked. You kissed. I can tell. You both look different. Rachel laughed. How can you possibly tell? Your lipstick is smudged, and Dad has that goofy smile he gets when he's really happy, and you're standing closer together. It's obvious. Nothing gets past you, Daniel said. Nope. Mia yawned. So, are you guys dating now? Rachel looked at Daniel. He looked back. A whole conversation in a glance. Yeah, he said. We are. Good. I like her. She makes you less sad. I like him too, Rachel said softly. He makes me less lonely. Mia's eyes drifted closed. Perfect. Now I can sleep. But when I wake up, you both have to be here, together. No more fighting." "Deal," they said in unison. They stayed with her through the night. Daniel. In the chair by her bed. Rachel, curled in the other chair, their hands linked between them across the space. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And for the first time in a very long time, both of them felt like they were exactly where they were supposed to be. Mia came home from the hospital on Sunday afternoon with strict orders to rest and a prescription for pain medication that made her sleepy and philosophical. "Dad," she said from her position on the couch, surrounded by pillows and her new sketchbook from Rachel, "do you think broken things know they're going to be fixed before it happens?" Daniel looked up from the kitchen where he was attempting to make chicken soup from scratch. "What do you mean, like my appendix? It was broken, and we didn't know until it hurt really bad. But maybe it knew the whole time it needed fixing." "That's very deep for someone on pain meds, Bug. I'm serious. Maybe people are like that too, broken and waiting to be fixed, but not knowing how until the right person shows up." Rachel, who'd been reading in the armchair, set down her book. She'd stayed with them since the hospital, helping with Mia's care, making sure Daniel ate and slept, fitting into their small apartment like she'd always been there. "I think," Rachel said carefully, "sometimes broken things don't need fixing. Sometimes they just need someone who sees them as whole." Mia considered this. "Like your broken crayon theory. Exactly like that. So you and Dad aren't broken, you're just different colors now." "When did you get so wise?" Daniel asked, bringing over a bowl of soup. "I've always been wise. You just never listened before." Rachel laughed, and the sound filled the apartment with warmth. The days that followed established a new rhythm. Daniel went back to work the following Tuesday, his new position in the literary division official. Susan Park welcomed him, warmly excited about building the imprint. His office was smaller than before, but had a window overlooking the Pearl District's streets. He filled it with books and manuscripts, and on his desk the cracked coffee mug he'd used for years. Rachel stayed in operations on the 6th floor, their paths crossing occasionally in meetings or the elevator. Professional, appropriate. But everyone noticed the way her face softened when she saw him. The way he smiled differently when she walked into a room. The rumors died down eventually, replaced by new office gossip, new dramas. Garrett Mills transferred to a different publisher after his own project failed spectacularly. People moved on. Daniel and Rachel didn't. They were careful at first. Dinner dates after Mia went to sleep, stolen lunches at restaurants far from the office phone calls that stretched into the early morning hours. Learning each other slowly. Building trust brick by careful brick. Rachel came to Mia's soccer games, cheering from the sideline with an enthusiasm that surprised everyone who knew her as the Ice Queen. She helped with homework, her patience with math problems exceeding Daniel's. She learned to make grilled cheese the way Mia liked it, with the crusts cut off and sliced diagonally. Mia bloomed under the attention, drew pictures of 3 people holding hands, asked increasingly pointed questions about when Rachel was moving in. Made it clear she'd already claimed Rachel as family regardless of what the adults decided. Daniel watched Rachel transform, saw her smile more, laugh easier, let her guard down in increments that felt like gifts. She told him about her marriage, about the fertility treatments that had failed, about the loneliness that had calcified into armor. He told her about Rebecca's departure, about the fear of abandonment he carried, about the exhaustion of doing everything alone. They were careful with each other's wounds, gentle, patient. "I'm not good at this," Rachel said one night 3 months in, sitting on Daniel's couch after Mia had gone to bed. Relationships, being vulnerable, all of it. "You're doing fine. I forgot your birthday last week. You sent flowers to my office. 3 days late. Still counts." She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "I'm trying. I know. So am I. Are we doing okay? Really?" Daniel thought about it. About the way she'd learned to read Mia's moods, to anticipate Daniel's needs, to ask for help when she needed it, instead of retreating. About the way she kept a drawer of clothes at his apartment, now toothbrush in the bathroom, favorite coffee in the cupboard. About the way his apartment felt like home when she was there. "Yeah," he said, "we're doing okay." Spring came to Portland with its usual drama. Rain giving way to sudden bursts of sunshine, cherry blossoms exploding pink along the streets, everyone emerging from winter hibernation, blinking and hopeful. 6 months after the hospital. 6 months after everything changed. Daniel woke on a Sunday morning to sunlight streaming through his bedroom window and the smell of coffee brewing. He found Mia in the kitchen setting the table for 3, humming to herself. She'd gotten taller in the past months, her face losing some of its childish roundness, growing into the person she'd become. "Morning, Bug, you're up early. Rachel's coming. I'm making it fancy." She'd arranged wildflowers from the farmer's market in a mason jar, set out the good plates they usually saved for holidays. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just us. The doorbell rang. Mia raced to answer it, and Daniel heard Rachel's voice in the entryway, warm and familiar. She appeared in the kitchen doorway carrying grocery bags and flowers, her hair loose around her shoulders, wearing jeans and a soft sweater. Casual, comfortable, real. Not the ice queen anymore, just Rachel. "I brought real maple syrup," she announced. "That stuff you buy is basically corn syrup with delusions of grandeur." "Food snob," Daniel accused, pulling her in for a kiss. "Quality matters." "Gross," Mia declared automatically, but she was smiling. "Can we make pancakes now?" They cooked together, the 3 of them moving around the small kitchen with practiced ease. Rachel mixed batter while Daniel heated the griddle. Mia set out butter and syrup, chattering about school, about the art show next week, where her broken crayon series would be displayed. "Will you come?" she asked Rachel. "To the art show? Of course. I wouldn't miss it." Promise, promise." They sat down to eat, sunlight pouring through the windows, making everything golden. Daniel watched Rachel help Mia cut her pancakes, watched his daughter steal extra chocolate chips when she thought no one was looking, watched this moment that 6 months ago would have seemed impossible. Rachel caught him staring. What? Nothing. Just thinking. About how one awkward moment in a hallway changed everything. The coffee incident. Rachel smiled. That was mortifying. That was the beginning. You're sentimental this morning. Maybe. Mia looked between them. Can I ask something? Depends what it is, Daniel said. Rachel, are you moving in? The question landed in the middle of the table like a grenade. Rachel's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Daniel's heart kicked up. Mia, he started. Because you have a toothbrush here, and your special coffee, and clothes in Dad's closet, and you're here every weekend, and you have a key. So basically, you already live here. You just also have another apartment you pay for, which seems dumb. Rachel set down her fork carefully, looked at Daniel with an expression he couldn't quite read. Fear, hope, question marks. I don't know, she said honestly. We haven't talked about it. Why not? Because it's a big step, and we want to make sure everyone's ready. I'm ready, Mia announced. I've been ready since the hospital. You guys are the slow ones. Daniel reached across the table, took Rachel's hand. Are you ready? I'm terrified, Rachel admitted. What if I mess it up? What if I'm not good at this long term? What if you're better at it than you think? Mia interrupted. That's what Dad always tells me when I'm scared of something new. Rachel's eyes filled. When did you get so wise? I'm 9. I've been around. They all laughed and the tension broke like sun through clouds. Can we talk about this? Rachel asked Daniel. Really talk about it. Yeah, we can talk. Not now, though, Mia said. Now we eat pancakes and have adventures. Talking can happen later. So they did. Finished breakfast, did dishes together, and walked through the neighborhood while Mia scootered ahead. The streets were busy with Sunday morning energy. Families, couples, dogs being walked, everyone making the most of the rare Portland sunshine. She's right, you know, Daniel said as they walked. About you basically living with us already. I still have my apartment. Do you want to keep it? Rachel was quiet for a long moment, thinking. No, honestly no. It's beautiful and expensive and completely empty of anything that matters. When I'm there alone, all I do is work and count the hours until I can come here. So, what are you afraid of? That this is too good? That I'll wake up and it'll be gone? That I don't deserve this much happiness after spending so many years convinced I didn't need it? Daniel stopped walking, turned to face her. You deserve this. You deserve all of it, and it's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Mia's not going anywhere. Promise? Promise." Rachel looked at him, really looked at him, and he saw the moment she decided. The moment fear gave way to trust. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I'll move in officially." With lease breaking and furniture combining and all the messy, complicated, wonderful parts of building a life together. Daniel kissed her right there on the sidewalk, not caring who saw. Yeah. Mia, who'd circled back on her scooter, pumped her fist in the air. "Finally. Can I redecorate my room?" "Absolutely not," Daniel and Rachel said in unison, then laughed. They kept walking, the three of them, toward the coffee shop on the corner. The rain started just as they reached it. Light spring rain that smelled like growth and new beginnings. Inside, they ordered drinks and claimed a table by the window. Daniel got his usual drip coffee in a to-go cup. Rachel ordered her precise espresso. Mia got hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. "Dad," Mia said, pulling out her sketchbook. "Can I show Rachel the new drawing?" "Go ahead." Mia opened to a page she'd been working on all week. 3 figures holding hands under a large tree, rain falling around them, but not on them. Shelter in the storm. At the bottom, in her careful handwriting, the broken and the beautiful. Rachel stared at it, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, tears in her eyes. "It's perfect," she whispered. "It's us," Mia said simply. "The day everything changed, when the ice melted and we became a family." Daniel looked at the 2 most important people in his world. His daughter, wise beyond her years, fearless in her love. His partner, learning to be soft after years of hardness, brave enough to try again. And himself no longer alone, no longer afraid. Outside, rain fell on the Portland streets, washing everything clean. Inside, they sat together in the warm coffee shop, planning their future. Talking about moving logistics and furniture and how to combine 2 lives into one home. Rachel's hand found Daniel's under the table. Squeezed. He squeezed back. On the table between them, Daniel's old travel mug sat empty, the crack running from rim to base still visible after all these years. He'd brought it from home out of habit, this broken thing he couldn't let go of. Rachel picked it up, examining it. "You really should replace this. It still works. Barely. Some things work better broken," Mia said, not looking up from her drawing. Rachel set the mug down carefully, her fingers tracing the crack. "Yeah, I'm starting to believe that." They sat there for another hour, rain streaking the windows, making plans and telling stories and building the life they'd all been too scared to hope for. When they finally left, walking back to the apartment that would soon be all of theirs, the rain had stopped. Sunlight broke through the clouds, making the wet streets shine like glass. Somewhere, a bird sang. The city smelled green and alive. Rachel looked up at the clearing sky, then at Daniel, then at Mia skipping ahead of them. "I never thought I'd have this," she said quietly. What everything, family, love, belonging. I built my whole life around not needing any of it. And now I can't imagine living without it. Daniel pulled her close, kissed her temple. Good, because you're stuck with us now. Promise, promise. They walked home together, three people who'd found each other through coffee stains and awkward moments and the courage to be vulnerable. Three people who'd learned that broken things could make something beautiful. That ice could melt. That it was never too late for new beginnings. In Daniel's apartment, the cracked coffee mug would sit on the kitchen counter for years to come. A reminder, a symbol, a testament to the truth that sometimes the most imperfect things held the warmest moments. And in that small apartment that would soon hold all of them, three people would build a life together. Messy and complicated, and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. Because that's what family was, what love was. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And real was better than anything else. The end.